Hello and welcome to Ginger Prime. My name is Brian, and in today's video I'm going to be diving into the world of Final Fantasy XI Classic, helping you to get installed, configured, and set up in the world of Vana'diel. Whether you're returning or you're a first-time player, hopefully this is a really good entry point for you. Final Fantasy XI Classic in this video is set up on the Wings XI server, so all the links to them will be in the description, and they're the ones who are hosting and running this private server. This means you've got a level 75 cap, era accurate XP, and so much more to experience what Final Fantasy XI was back in the Wings of the Goddess days. So let's go ahead and dive in, get registered, and have a lot of fun. But as always, feel free to let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. So the first thing you want to do is head over to wingsxi.com and click on the sign up link, and here you'll be greeted with a typical sign up form. You need to use a valid email address because it will email you, and you have to confirm that email for you even to consider logging in. This is a really good first step, and then from here you can actually head over to their Discord link and get connected into the Discord server. Highly recommend you do that because not only is the server a great source of information, but it also is a great source for technical support in case you have any kind of problems. But under the first time setup, here you're going to find the links to be able to install the game itself, as well as additional steps in programming, as well as other resources and video tutorials for you to go and check out if you so choose. But this is essentially how you get installed and how you get started. From here, you can actually do a couple of different things, and we're going to dive into actually configuration. You're going to find under your C drive plenty of resources here. First, you'll see the Wings XI folder, and then from here, you can actually do a couple different things. We're going to go to Square Enix, and then we're going to go to Final Fantasy XI. And then under Tools, US, if you're outside of the US, maybe you use any of these other tools. But here in the United States, you're going to click on Tools, US. And here you'll find your gamepad config and your Final Fantasy XI config itself. So if I go ahead and say, right-click it and say Run as Administrator, which is definitely recommended, I would pull up my own personal configuration for the gamepad. Here I've got A as my select and confirm. In this case, I'm also using X input. If the controller that you're using is giving you trouble, maybe disable X input and see if that works a little bit better. But I'm using a standard Xbox controller, and X input works fantastic. You obviously want to have your gamepad enabled. Cancel I have set to my B button. My active window menu options I have set to my Y button. My auto run I have set to my left bumper. My macro palette control and my macro palette alt are set to the left and right triggers, so you can choose whatever you feel is best and most comfortable there. I don't have a logout button mapped. Essentially, I have that as a part of the main menu. I have hide menus mapped to my select button, the Windows button in this case, or whatever they have it called now in a controller. The heal lock on target, I have it as pressing down on the left stick, so you click that and you're going to take a knee and rest up. I have change view on the down click on the right stick. I have take screenshots as my 12 button. I don't even remember what that is ultimately. And finally, I have my main menu pulling that up as the start button, and that's going to allow me to pull up all the different menus and navigate. You will want to configure your movement, camera, and menus. This is going to help calibrate your controller so that way it works as best as it can. And honestly, that's essentially what I've got set up. You can turn on force feedback, but ultimately I end up turning it off because whenever I'm setting the controller down on a desk and it might vibrate, it ends up kind of annoying me, and it doesn't sound great in the microphone, but I'll leave that up to you. Now, right-clicking under your Final Fantasy XI config.exe, you can go to admin, and I have it with the different options. You can change your mode, in this case full screen, borderless windowed, or windowed mode. You can change your screen size, resolution, and menu resolutions, textures, effects, sound, miscellaneous options, and more. But that's how you're going to ultimately find all your settings under the Square Enix Wings Tools US. I end up, if you go into tools.eu, you're gonna and you're in the US, it might end up causing some issues visually for you. So note that if you get some random question marks, you want to look for the Tools US folder. Now that that is configured, there's one last step. Here, if you fire up Wings on Ashita, it's going to load up the application. Here you can end up doing a couple things like add-ons and plugins and things like that. And you can have multiple profiles. First things first, I ended up renaming this one because I wanted it in 1080 by 1920, and ultimately I changed and named my profile incorrectly, which just makes me laugh each and every time. But here you'll find a couple different information. You're going to want to look at the command. In this case, this is where you're actually going. This is changed, so you'll have to change this to game.wingsxi.com. The nice thing about Wings in this case is it also has DDoS protection, so you don't have to worry about people trying to come in and just ruin your fun with a DDoS attack in this regards. But note that you change your server, you're going to be good to go in that case. You can also change up various other advanced configurations like your window sizing and more, and that's just kind of how it is. You click on this button here at the bottom to save your configuration, and then to launch the game, you just hit play, and now it's going to bring up the main menu. Here is where you're going to go ahead and log in. You press 1 to log in, and then you're going to put in your username, and then you're going to put in your password, like so. And as long as I typed my password in correctly, it's going to go ahead and log me into the server, and thus I can now create my character. When you first come to the main menu, you're going to only have the option to create character, so I'm going to highlight this for you guys here right now. Overall, you have your Humes, you have your Elvens, you have your Tatarus, and you have your Mithra and your Galka. Your race actually does have an impact on the classes that you play. Overall, like there's going to be kind of a min-maxing efficiency for either one of those. So just note that this isn't a guide to dive in on your character to your class. Maybe we'll explore that in a future video. Let me know if you'd like to see that by, I guess, hitting that like button. If we get to like 1 million likes, then I know. I'm just teasing. Just ask me in the comments. We'll go from there. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and create a Hume and a Hume female. You have a bunch of different options when creating your character overall. It's not like if you're used to modern video games, the most up-to-date character options to choose from. But we'll go ahead and pick on phase 2 and go from there. And you can pick on light or dark hair as well. And then you can pick whether you are tall, small, or medium-sized female. The classes that you have to start off with are Warrior, Monk, White Mage, Black Mage, Red Mage, and Thief. If you're just starting the game for the first time, or you're really wanting to have a little bit of an easier time playing the game, pick on any of the melee. Warrior or Monk are really good choices. Thief is also a really good choice. Getting into the mages, Red Mage would be a really good choice for learning magic and at the same time also having that melee option. And White Mage and Black Mage are obviously going to be heavily in demand, but there's a cost to that because you have to buy your spells. So just be ready to have that level of investment if you're really wanting to dive into the game and the magic game in this case. I'm going to go ahead and pick on Red Mage just for fun, and I'm going to give my character a name, and as long as that available name is available, well, that makes really no sense at all. We're going to call her Red Girl. And picking my server, and I don't have a Gold War pass, so it's going to check the name. Here, I'm going to now be prompted to pick a specific kingdom, whether I want to go Sandoria, if I want to go Bastok, or if I want to go Windurst. Now, it's important to note that based off your race, if you pick kind of the hometown, the home team for your base race, you're going to get a special item, a special ring, which is going to help an earlier leveling of the game itself. So I'm going to go ahead and register Red Girl to play here in Bastok, and thus it's going to create my character and get me ready to rock and roll with the game. You're going to be greeted with a cutscene. You're going to be greeted, just with a mountain of non-information. The game's just going to set you into the world, and it's pretty much up to you to figure out where to go. So once the game sets you up on your own, I want to kind of jump through some character configuration here, just some options that you might find enjoyable. If you press start, you're going to bring up your main menu, and pressing left or right on the D-pad or the keyboard are going to bring up your additional menu. You're going to look for the config option here, and this is where you can kind of jump into the multiple different options that you can kind of play around with. I personally pick on gameplay and setting your inventory to auto sort. Otherwise, things are going to stack up on their own, and right now you start the game with a very limited inventory of 30 slots, and that counts the equipment that you have on you. So note that you want to turn on auto sort as quickly as possible. You can also jump into the miscellaneous options here and play around with a lot of different things. Like I like to have both on-screen display with damage to both on-screen and in the log for me to see. Under miscellaneous 2, you want to look at your background aspect ratio. If you press A, you can see how you can kind of change it to make it look a little bit strange. So in this case, I'm playing in 16:9, so I'm going to keep it in 16:9 as well. And then under miscellaneous 3, I end up just turning all of these things on. Timer display is important because that's going to show you the timer cooldown on any buffs or debuffs that you have on your character. But you can look at the different options there as well. and then software keyboard here in this case is off as I'm on PC. Under your mouse and cam, this is where you can play around with inverted and uninverted options. So just take a look and see what ultimately works for you the best way possible in this case. So I honestly just pick it, figure out what works best for you and what's the most comfortable. And that should help get you configured when starting this game itself. Now, as far as it goes, when you start out, you're going to be handed, a level 1 weapon, and that's not going to necessarily be automatically equipped. So make sure you go into your equipment and you equip your level 1 weapon. Your level 1 gear will already be equipped, so just note that you'll have that on your person at any time. So just be sure to come in here and check your equipment to make sure that it is being used to the best of your ability in this case. So now I want to talk to you guys about leveling and what you should be focusing in on, especially the first 10 to 12 levels, because once you hit level 12, that's really when you want to start doing party kind of content. So if I hit start, if you're ever curious, you can always go to party and just set yourself as a seek party player. That way it allows players to find you and be able to message you and invite you into groups while you're maybe doing some solo books, and we'll cover kind of what you do as a part of your solo daily loop in this case. Now when I speak daily, mostly that is usually an in-game day, which takes about an hour of the real world time. So every hour in the game, there's a couple of things that you can be doing. But first and foremost, you want to go and talk to any guard by the gates of the main city that you're leaving. First and foremost, you always want to make sure that you have a signet cast on you. As you increase in your ranking in your story missions for the base game, for your starting city, you actually increase the amount of time that your signet will last, and a couple of other perks, especially here on Wings. You'll open up your Mog wardrobe. There's a lot of nice features that the game kind of has at you for quality of life. You can also go into with your signet, you're gonna get increased healing, and you'll be able to get crystals from enemies, which you can sell on the market boards for money, which is a real key thing. The other thing I'm going to point to is going on supply quests. You want to be able to pick on these little quests and go and knock out the regions that you control as soon as it's safe to do so. Your starting region is a really good option because this is going to allow you to fast travel to the different outposts in the map, and fast travel is going to be your best friend when it comes to playing Final Fantasy XI. There is a massive amount of time it takes to do anything, so as soon as you're able to jump around the world quickly, it's going to be something that you experience and ultimately have a really good time and enjoy. So you can see here, I've got 2 regions done, and you could take on a supply quest once a day, but it can only be for the different regions that you control. So just note that as if you ever want to see under start and under region info, this is going to tell you under Conquest what zones your starting city controls, and that is going to help give you information as to where you can travel and where you need to go in the game itself. And this gets updated once a week, so just kind of play around with that. Okay, so the other thing about Conquest, I'm opening and closing the menu. In the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see your Conquest points. That's something that is going to be a currency that you farm up. And the first thing you want to do once you get 1,000 points is you want to come talk to the guard, and you want to be able to say, I want to spend my Conquest points. And then under common items, all ranks, you can find yourself a Empress band for 1,000 points. This is an increased experience that you can just keep feeding yourself, and that's going to make your overall leveling experience a smoother impact on you. So again, just make sure you have a signet, farm up, and the way you farm up, obviously, Conquest points is by going and playing and leveling up. So now that I've got a signet on my character, that's good. So that's going to mean that every enemy that I fight, every enemy that I kill is going to feed into that Conquest points, and you're going to find yourself racking up a bunch of those. There's a lot of things you can spend Conquest points on, so be sure to constantly make a priority that your signet is on. Any outpost that you control in the zone can also refresh your signet, so don't worry too much about being too far from home. Now, as you play and level in the game, you're going to find these wonderful little books out and about. Now, when you first start, you're not going to have any tabs, but what you can do is that as soon as you, and tabs is the book currency in this case, that whenever you complete a page, aka kind of a side quest, mini quest, you're going to get a currency which can allow you to go and get some field support. Personally, I would highly recommend picking on White Mage or White Magic Regen, and it's going to cost you 20 tabs, and that's going to give you an hour-long regen buff. This is just going to keep healing you a little bit at a time, and that's why it's ultimately really important to be able to knock out your book so you can keep these buffs up, which is just going to make your leveling experience much easier. You can take on one of these quests once a day, and you can see here I currently have an active quest for this zone to kill 6 sheep and 1 members of the goblin family. In this case, it's also going to tell you the target range and the zone of what you're doing. So you can cancel the current training regimen and pick on another one if desired. But here you go. You pick on a book quest, you're going to farm up currency, it's going to allow you to have different buffs, and then you go out and explore and just engage in different enemies. A lot of enemies are going to be a challenge, so if you've never played this game before, be sure to go in and click on them, select them, and hit check, and the game's going to tell you if they're easy or if they're difficult. If you're used to more modern games, note that even this wild rabbit could essentially kick my butt if I wasn't too careful. But in this case, I've out-leveled a little bit, so here I'm able to get a little bit of materials from the rabbit itself. You cannot attack an enemy that is currently engaged by another player unless they call for help. So note that if you get the claim on an enemy and you just have people standing around, the only way another player can help you is by actively healing you if they are a mage in this case. So that is essentially kind of the core game loop. If you're running around, you can always hit start and pull up your map. And here you can see here is the outpost that I could fast travel to if desired. So that is something that I can go and find additional books at and kind of stage myself, which will end up helping me out. You'll notice that a lot of the rabbit that I killed only dropped materials. And so in this case, the game is not going to necessarily feed you gil for just killing your base enemy. They're going to feed you materials to use for crafting and or selling on the markets themselves. However, different kind of enemies like this orcish grappler here, more elevated enemies like your goblins will drop gil as a part of killing them because they kind of have that, I guess that higher level of intelligence to actually have money as opposed to like a rabbit hopping around that has absolutely no need for money itself. So at the outpost, you're actually going to find a really great place to kind of set up a staging camp. You can see here that you can talk to the RK here, any of the station soldiers, and be able to cast a home point. You can also set your home point, but I would not recommend setting your home point at a specific outpost personally, especially if you've already unlocked the campaign mission or the campaign quest of supply quest to unlock the teleportation. Now, what you can do here is that as a part of it, once you have that unlocked, you can actually use the Harbinger here or whoever the NPC is at the outpost to use teleportation services to teleport you back to your home city. This is a very important, very speedy way of getting around the map, but what they also offer is the ability to buy and sell items. I would not recommend buying items from them. However, I would recommend using them to sell items that you don't ultimately need. Personally speaking, you can see here I've got fire crystal, hair meat, and meat jerky being an item that I use from time to time. But when it comes down to your farming, you can see here the fire crystals will actually stack up to 12, hair meat will also stack up to 12, and then you'll have your various inventory. So as you're farming, as your inventory fills up, if there's nothing that you're specifically wanting to sell as a stack on the market, you can always use basically NPC vendor these items to help feed you with more gil. Now let's go ahead and teleport back to the city and let's introduce you to the market boards so that way you can sell some items. In every city, you're going to find an auction house, and you can designate that via kind of the little gavel, in which that you can come up to here and you can actually find and bid on various items. You can also post items for sale, and personally speaking, I would usually recommend posting especially stacks of crystals in stacks of 12. You can always list them individually, but that's going to take up a full slot. You can end up having 12 items here on Wings being sold at any time. Now you can easily bid on weapons and armor. In this case, if you just pick on weapons hand to hand, and it's going to bring up a list of items. You can see that it actually has inventory for sale as opposed to what's always listed, but you can see here the inventory sort is a little bit random. So what you want to do is click on A, or in this case, go to your sub menu, click on sort, and then you can say, hey, I want to sort these all by level, so that way you can find a level appropriate. It's going to sort it by highest level first, so then you can press kind of right on the D-pad to kind of jump down to the bottom, where ideally you can find yourself a brand new weapon, in this case, to be able to dive in. So brass knuckles times 2, you can look at the price history of bidding, and you can see here it's running for about 5 to 10k on average. This is where you would actually put in a bid, and if I just put in like 5,000 and say yes, it's going to then determine if there is somebody who's willing to sell that at the lowest price. In this case, no. Nobody was willing to sell it at that price. If I just look at the regular brass knuckles and look at the price, here you can see high quality obviously fetches a much higher price for the items that they're trying to sell in this case. So just kind of pay attention to prices and what is available to sell and to buy in this case. So with that, at this time, I would recommend and point you to any of the numerous Final Fantasy XI wikis. If you're looking to do something specific, find a specific mission, find a specific quest, unlock a specific feature, one of the things that you should be working towards with all haste is your sub job quest, which unlocks at level 18, and then you have to get the required items, and that will allow you to actually sub job any of the jobs that you have unlocked. So if you look here at my status, I am right now a level 12 monk, level 6 warrior. Your sub job is always going to be half the level of your main job, and leveling is not going to feed it experience. You have to choose to manually level it at that time. So that's going to be it. There's so much awesome information out there on the internet, but I want to hopefully help get you plugging in, playing around with this game, and get you set up, hopefully, to have a wonderful experience in Final Fantasy XI Classic. My name is Brian. This has been Ginger Prime. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you're already a subscriber here, you're amazing and awesome, and thanks for checking out this video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I invite you to hit that subscribe button, that like button, and share button, especially if you dive in and this was at all helpful. Let me know if I've earned it in the comments below. But otherwise, I wish you the best, and hopefully you have a fantastic day. Hope to see you in my next video. But until then, take care. This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.